The text arrived at 6:47 a.m. on a Tuesday, sent to our entire family group chat. Vanessa, great news. The hotel sale is finalized. $4.2 million closing next Friday. My divorce settlement is secured. Finally moving forward. Party popper. I stared at my phone sitting in my office at the State Historic Preservation Commission. The office where I'd worked for 9 years as the Senior Preservation Officer for Commercial Properties. The hotel. The 1887 Grand Pacific Hotel in downtown Portland. The building I'd purchased 12 years ago for $780,000. A crumbling wreck that everyone said was unsalvageable. The property I'd spent a decade restoring, researching, documenting. The building Vanessa had somehow listed for sale. My phone buzzed again. Mom, this is wonderful, Vanessa. Now you can finally start fresh. Claire, aren't you happy for your sister? I opened the real estate listing. There it was, Historic Grand Pacific Hotel, 1887 original construction, prime downtown location, $4.2 million. Buyer plans full renovation and conversion to luxury condos. Fast close required. Luxury condos. Renovation. My hands started shaking. I pulled up my property records. Grand Pacific Hotel, deed holder. Claire Morrison. Purchased 2012, fully paid off 2019. No liens, no encumbrances. Except there was a quitclaim deed filed 8 days ago. Claire Morrison transferring ownership to Vanessa Morrison for consideration of prior family debts and mutual agreement. I'd never signed a quitclaim deed. I'd never agreed to transfer anything. My sister had forged documents to steal my hotel for her divorce settlement. The hotel that had just been granted preliminary protected status by the Historic Preservation Board 2 months ago. The same board where I'd presented the architectural documentation. The same board chaired by Dr. Robert Chin, my graduate school mentor, the man who'd encouraged me to pursue preservation architecture. I looked at the buyer information. Apex Development Group. I recognized the name immediately. They'd been cited 4 times for historic preservation violations. Unauthorized demolition of protected interiors. Removal of original architectural elements. False documentation on permit applications. They were going to gut my hotel. And Vanessa had no idea what she'd just done. I picked up my office phone and dialed Dr. Chen's direct line. Claire. Dr. Chen answered on the second ring. I was just about to call you. We have a situation with the Grand Pacific. I know. My sister forged documents and listed it for sale. To Apex Development. Silence. Your sister forged. Claire, this is a protected property. Any sale requires Preservation Board approval. Any renovation requires permits and compliance review. The documentation you submitted shows the building has intact 1887 interior elements, original crown molding, historic wallpaper, and the only surviving example of Pacific Northwest maritime-themed ceiling frescoes. I know. I documented all of it. Apex Development is claiming they have authorization for adaptive reuse renovations. Their permit application says you're the seller and you've approved full interior demolition. I'm not the seller. I never approved anything. Vanessa forged a quitclaim deed. Jesus. Dr. Chen's voice was grim. Claire, Apex is scheduled to start demolition Monday. They have contractors lined up. If they gut that interior before we can stop them, call an emergency board meeting. I'm filing for an injunction. And Robert, call the police. This is real estate fraud. Consider it done. I hung up and opened my documentation files. 12 years of research. Architectural surveys. Historic photographs. Restoration logs. Financial records showing every dollar I'd invested. Then I opened the family group chat and began typing. The ghost ledger, what Vanessa cost. I'd been keeping records for 8 years, since Vanessa's financial problems started affecting me. Financial costs. Emergency loan for Vanessa's wedding 2016, $32,000. Never repaid. You'll get it back when we're settled, Claire. Bail money when Vanessa's husband was arrested for DUI, 2019, $15,000. Never repaid. Marcus will pay you back. Marcus never did. Bridge loan for Vanessa's mortgage 2020 to 2021, $48,000 total, paid over 18 months when she couldn't afford payments. Never repaid. I'm between jobs, Claire. Family helps family. Legal fees for Vanessa's first divorce attorney, 2023, $8,000. Just until the settlement comes through. The settlement went entirely to her debts. Expected family investment in Vanessa's boutique, 2022, $25,000. The boutique closed in 11 months. Never repaid. Total documented, $128,000. Plus 15 years of being the responsible one who fixed Vanessa's problems. Emotional costs. Every family gathering 2012 to 2024. Claire's so lucky with her little hotel project. Vanessa, you should have Claire's life. No husband, no kids, just a building to worry about. My Architectural Preservation Award 2021. Mom said, that's nice. When Vanessa got engaged, second marriage, Mom threw a party for 80 people. My presentation to the National Trust for Historic Preservation, 2023. I'd been invited to speak about the Grand Pacific Restoration. Dad said, sounds boring. Vanessa's boutique opening? The whole family attended. Every conversation about my work. Claire plays with old buildings. Never Claire is a senior preservation officer, or Claire saved a historically significant structure. Professional costs. Having to disclose family conflict of interest to the preservation board. Reputation risk if Vanessa's fraud became public before I reported it. The knowledge that my own sister saw 12 years of my work as disposable cash. The pattern. Financial desperation. Narcissistic entitlement. Inability to see other people's property or achievements as legitimate. My therapist had been blunt. Your family treats your hotel like monopoly money because they don't value the work you do. To them, you're not an architect and preservation expert. You're the unmarried sister who plays with buildings instead of having a real life, like Vanessa. Can I stop her? You're the only one who can. The realization. I was 41 years old. I had a master's degree in architectural preservation from University of Oregon. I'd spent 12 years restoring a historically significant building. I was the senior preservation officer for the State Commission. I'd published articles on Pacific Northwest maritime architecture. And my sister thought she could forge documents and sell my life's work for her divorce settlement. The Grand Pacific wasn't just property. It was one of 3 remaining examples of 1887 maritime hotel architecture in the Pacific Northwest. The ceiling frescoes in the main ballroom were painted by Johann Schmidt, a German immigrant artist whose other works had been lost to fire and demolition. The original crown molding was hand-carved Douglas fir with maritime motifs. Anchors, ships, compass roses. Apex Development gutted the interior that history would be gone forever. Over Vanessa's dead body. Or her criminal record. The Emergency Preservation Board meeting convened at 2 p.m. All 7 board members present. Dr. Chin chaired the meeting. I sat in the front row next to my attorney, Patricia Okonkwo, who specialized in property fraud cases. We're here regarding an emergency motion to halt demolition and sale of the Grand Pacific Hotel, Dr. Chin began. Ms. Morrison, please present your case. I stood, connected my laptop to the projector and pulled up my documentation. The Grand Pacific Hotel, built 1887, is one of 3 remaining examples of Pacific Northwest maritime hotel architecture. 2 months ago, this board granted preliminary protected status pending final documentation. That documentation is complete. I showed photographs. The intact interior, the ceiling frescoes, the original molding, the maritime-themed stained glass that had survived 137 years. 8 days ago, a quitclaim deed was filed transferring ownership from me to my sister Vanessa Morrison Chin. I never signed this deed. The signature is forged. My sister then listed the property for $4.2 million to Apex Development Group, a company with 4 citations for historic preservation violations. Murmurs around the table. Apex has filed permit applications for adaptive reuse renovation, which their contractor documents show means complete interior demolition. They plan to gut the building Monday, destroying 137 years of architectural history. I clicked to the next slide. Side-by-side comparison of my signature on legitimate documents versus the forged quitclaim deed. This is fraud. Real estate fraud, forgery, and attempted destruction of a protected historic property. Dr. Chin looked at the other board members. I move for immediate protective designation of the Grand Pacific Hotel, elevating it from preliminary to full protected status. This prevents any demolition or renovation without board approval, regardless of ownership disputes. Second, said Dr. Martinez. All in favor? 7 hands raised. The Grand Pacific Hotel is now under full historic protection. Any demolition or unauthorized renovation is a criminal offense under state law. Dr. Chin looked at me. Ms. Morrison, you need to file criminal charges. Today. Police are waiting outside. The Portland police arrested Vanessa at 4:18 p.m., at Mom's house where she'd been staying during her divorce. Detectives found everything: the forged quitclaim deed, emails with Apex Development, and communications with a notary who'd falsely witnessed the signature, for $500. They also found Vanessa's divorce attorney's advice in writing. If you can access your sister's property, the sale proceeds would be considered separate property not subject to division with Marcus. Her attorney had essentially instructed her to commit fraud. By 6 p.m. my phone was exploding with messages. Mom, the police arrested Vanessa. At my house. Claire, what did you do? My brother Derek. You called the cops on your own sister over a building? What is wrong with you? Aunt Linda. Vanessa is in jail because you can't be flexible about property. Family shares things, Claire. I didn't respond to any of them. Instead, I sent one message to the family group chat. Vanessa forged a quitclaim deed to steal my hotel. The building I purchased in 2012, restored for 12 years and documented as historically significant. She listed it for sale to a developer who planned to demolish the protected interior. She committed real estate fraud, forgery, and attempted destruction of a state-protected historic property. The Grand Pacific Hotel is one of 3 remaining examples of 1887 Pacific Northwest maritime architecture. The interior contains the only surviving Johann Schmidt ceiling frescoes and original hand-carved maritime motifs. It's now under full state historic protection. Vanessa was arrested for felony fraud. Her divorce settlement will not include proceeds from property she doesn't own and never had permission to sell. Anyone who wants to discuss my flexibility can review the state historic preservation statutes I'm attaching here. I attached the police report, the board's protection order, and documentation showing 12 years of restoration work. Then I muted the family chat. The prosecution built their case over 3 months. They found the forged quitclaim deed, signed by a notary who admitted to falsifying the witness statement for $500. Email exchanges between Vanessa and Apex Development showing she knew I hadn't approved the sale but claimed, my sister and I share ownership. Text messages to her divorce attorney, Claire will never know until it's too late. The closing is Friday, demolition starts Monday. By the time she figures it out, the money will be in my settlement account. False statements on the sale contract claiming she had full authority to sell the property. But the most damaging evidence came from Vanessa's own words during police questioning. Detective, did you have Claire's permission to file the quitclaim deed? Vanessa, she wouldn't have said yes, so I didn't ask. She doesn't need that hotel. She's single, no kids. I'm going through a divorce. I need the money more. Detective, did you know the building has protected historic status? Vanessa, Claire talks about that stuff constantly. I don't care about old buildings. It's just property. Detective, did you know Apex planned to demolish the interior? Vanessa, that's what renovations are. Claire's being dramatic. It's not like it's a museum. The prosecutor read the transcript in court. Your Honor, the defendant didn't just commit real estate fraud. She attempted to destroy a state-protected historic property for personal financial gain. She showed no remorse, no understanding of the cultural significance of what she was trying to destroy, and no respect for her sister's property rights or life's work. Vanessa's attorney argued, Your Honor, my client is going through a difficult divorce. She made a mistake in judgment. She forged legal documents, the judge interrupted. She lied to developers, notaries, and real estate agents. She planned to demolish a protected historic property. That's not a mistake. That's a crime. Judge Sarah Levine had a reputation for harsh sentences in fraud cases. Ms. Morrison, you committed real estate fraud against your own sister. You attempted to profit from property you had no right to sell. You conspired with a notary to falsify legal documents. And you did all of this with full knowledge that the property was historically significant and protected. She sentenced Vanessa to 6 years in state prison, 3 years probation and $180,000 in restitution, covering my legal fees, the cost of clearing the fraudulent deed and damage to the hotel's marketability during the court proceedings. Mom sobbed in the gallery. I felt nothing but tired. 6 months after sentencing, I stood in the Grand Pacific Hotel's restored ballroom, hosting the State Historic Preservation Commission's annual gala. 150 preservation professionals, architects, historians, and board members filled the space. The Johann Schmidt ceiling frescoes glowed under carefully designed lighting, maritime scenes painted in 1887, preserved through careful restoration, now protected in perpetuity. Dr. Chin stood at the podium. The Grand Pacific Hotel represents the best of historic preservation. Claire Morrison purchased this building when it was condemned and unsalvageable. She spent 12 years researching, restoring, and documenting every architectural element. When the building was threatened, she had the courage to protect it even at enormous personal cost. The applause was warm. Tonight, we're designating the Grand Pacific as a state historic landmark, the highest level of protection. And we're honoring Claire Morrison with the Heritage Guardian Award for exceptional preservation work. I accepted the award, a bronze plaque featuring the hotel's original 1887 facade. My daughter Emma, 17, stood in the front row filming on her phone. My daughter. Not Vanessa's. Not the single with no kids person Vanessa had described to police. Emma. My daughter from my first marriage, the marriage that ended quietly when I was 27, the child my family barely acknowledged because she didn't fit their narrative that I was married to my work. After the ceremony, Dr. Chin pulled me aside. How are you holding up? I'm okay. The hotel is protected. That's what matters. Your family. Not speaking to me. Except Emma. I'm sorry. Don't be. They never understood this work. They thought preservation was a hobby. They couldn't see that saving architectural history matters. Dr. Chin smiled. But you saved it anyway. That's the job. A week later, I received a letter from the National Trust for Historic Preservation. They wanted to feature the Grand Pacific in their annual publication, highlighting preservation success stories and the professionals who protect our heritage. The article would include the full story, including the legal battle that saved the building from demolition. I called the journalist. If you're telling this story, tell all of it. My sister tried to steal and destroy this building. But the protections worked. The system worked. That's the story that matters, that we have laws and procedures that can save historic properties even from family members who see them as disposable. The article ran 3 months later, the hotel that survived everything, including family. It quoted Vanessa's statement to police, "It's just property." And my response, "It's 137 years of history. It's the work of craftsmen who died a century ago. It's irreplaceable. And that's why we fight to save it." Vanessa served 4 years before parole. By then, the Grand Pacific had hosted 15 weddings, 6 corporate events, and 2 documentary film shoots about Pacific Northwest maritime history. Mom called once, 6 months after Vanessa's release. "She's struggling, Claire. Can't find work with a felony record. Can you help? Can I recommend some social services programs?" I meant, financially. "No. She's your sister. She forged documents and tried to destroy 12 years of my work for a divorce settlement. She showed no remorse. She thought historic preservation was stupid. I'm not helping her. That's cruel. It's boundaries, Mom. Look up the difference." I hung up. Emma, now in college studying architecture, asked me later, "Do you regret prosecuting Aunt Vanessa?" "No. I regret that she made choices that required prosecution. But I don't regret protecting the building. Even though it cost you your family?" I looked at the photo on my desk. Emma and me in the Grand Pacific Ballroom, the Schmidt frescoes glowing above us. "And you're my family. This building, it's a piece of history that will outlive all of us. It survived 137 years, 2 earthquakes and Vanessa's fraud. That matters. Because history matters. Because some things are worth protecting even when it's hard." She smiled. "Like old hotels and difficult daughters?" "Exactly like that.